ladies and gentlemen, what's poppin'? We are back on the back end of podcast number 6. I'm sitting here with Dominic Mendoza, audio engineer out of Arizona. We're here to follow up. So we left off with everything that basically happened in New Mexico. A lot of changes happening between family, music, the passions, the faith, the schooling and the education side of things. So let's follow up, man. You get to Arizona, you plug into a college for audio engineering. You didn't know anybody. What were kind of the first things that you plugged into, and how did faith pour out, and how did your schooling? Was it a smooth ride? What are kind of some things that stuck out to you about the beginning part of you moving here?
So in the beginning, basically after I moved here, I had known that I needed to find a church to go to. And so I went back to a Catholic church for the very first weekend that I was here. And I sat in there and I was just like, this is not it. Because I had felt God's presence prior to moving out here.
And this was, at this point, you had been in the Word. That guy had been showing you the gospel and stuff like that.
I had got baptized the day before, 2 days before.
You left?
I hit that, before I left and moved out here. I come here Sunday, hit the Catholic church, and I'm like, whoa. Eye-opening. I've been sitting through this whole time.
Yeah.
Whoa. And so I was on the hunt for a Christian church, and
how did you start? What did you look for?
It's funny because my auntie, she actually lives in Odessa, Texas, and she has been a Christian since I can remember. I know that she wasn't Catholic. No, she's like the only one in my family.
Okay.
And so she heard oh, I'm giving my life to God. I got baptized, yada yada yada,
mm-hmm.
and she's trying to help me now. So she's looking for good churches,
mm-hmm.
and I end up finding this church called Redeemer Apostolic Church it was in Mesa. It's actually next door to Skateland. Okay. It was at Burke Basic School.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So being from that Catholic background, when I was first looking for it, I was looking for a legit church.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that people did church in schools and wherever they could.
Yeah.
So I couldn't find it, and I was like, God, I guess this is not the church you want me to go to. And then I looked to the left and I saw this little banner, and I went in there, man, and I just felt the presence of God. I got fed. I was like, this is it. And I've been with them ever since.
Uh-huh.
And so that was the first plug, and ever since then, they've just grown, and the people that I've been close to there have become my family down here.
Yeah.
So it's my extended family from New Mexico, and just so much love and support and biblical backgrounds, and wanting the best for me in
mm-hmm.
my Christian walk.
Yeah.
As well as just life in general.
Yeah. Would you say it came at the right timing?
Oh, perfectly, man. I couldn't ask for anything better. So, and then eventually I had met my fiance at this church. So,
okay.
Hey. What's up, baby?
Kill two birds with one stone,
Yeah.
man. Why not go to church and find your loved one?
Exactly.
Man? That's what's up. Dope. So then, you're out here. You find a nice church. You find your lady. You're in college now at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was it a 2-year college, 4-year, 1 year?
No, it was actually a 4-year college.
Okay.
And within this time period, I had met a few guys from Detroit that when I had told you I had been rapping,
mm-hmm.
I started doing a group with them.
Okay.
They were already established group.
Mm-hmm.
Dave and Maverick, shout out to them. And they're called Fervent Spirit.
Okay.
And we ended up linking up at a concert at my church one day, and then from that point on we just started making music. They're very creative. Dave sings and Maverick writes very unique and stuff, and since 2012 we were just started making music, and that's kind of where my schooling went towards a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Learning.
Yeah, that's where you really got a lot of your groundwork.
Exactly.
Practicing what you've been learning. Dope,
yeah,
man.
exactly. So those are some of the guys that I got plugged into with right away. So
awesome, man. So now we've been doing a lot of zoom in, so I like to zoom out a little bit. Now, just in general, you do a lot of freelance work, right, with your engineering and stuff. So what have been some of your most notable, and I don't always mean popularity or fame. I'm just talking, what are some things that mean a lot to you as far as accomplishments that you've had either with people you've worked with or a certain level that you got to with your engineering or projects you've been involved in?
Well, I've actually done like about 3 or 4 mixtapes with the Fervent Spirit.
Okay.
I did their first one, and that was just a duet, and then I did the second one. It was called Smoking Word Volume 1.
Okay,
that was like
that's some wordplay right there.
Yeah.
Smoking Word.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. So we did like
That's
an
what's
18-track mixtape. We let that out, and we did like singles, freestyles.
Yeah.
Let all that stuff out, and then like last year, my boy Maverick came out with his own single mixtape. So I've done all that, and then just recently, I had done some work with Artificial Christian. You know, I mixed about 3/4 of their mixtape, and I've also worked with my boy Booker T, who I met at school. He does some singing, like R&B type stuff.
Yeah, and you know, what comes to my mind immediately is what you said about Artificial Christian, because I had probably met those cats a little bit after you, and I knew half the group prior, but yeah, for those of you guys who don't know, we're just going to plug them immediately. So Artificial Christian, self-titled project. Artificial Christian is out. You can check it out on my page at consciencehiphop.com. It's all over our social media. It's one way or another. Yeah, very dope, very talented cats singing, rapping, and immaculate engineering here by Mendoza. If you want to see some of his current portfolio-esque work, definitely check out the self-titled Artificial Christian project. It is very well mixed and mastered, which, yeah, man, I remember that's kind of my first dose of even really hearing about you was through, I always heard cats say, oh, we're gonna bounce this over to Mendoza. I'm like, what is this, a drug deal going on? like why are they like, just sounded like you're some mafia cat. They're gonna be like, yo, let's bounce this over to Mendoza. Oh, Mendoza did this or Mendoza did that. I'm like, yo, who is he and what is he doing? And and that's kind of how we linked together. I wanted to give you a platform to kind of speak about your life and things you're passionate about, because a lot of cats just don't know what goes on behind the scenes. And honestly, it doesn't really matter how dope you are as an MC if you don't have an engineer who could showcase that for you. It's not as simple as grabbing a mic and getting some Pro Tools and then having at it. There's music is a science. There's not just the rapping and singing, but there's the production and making beats. There's the engineering of the sound and making sure it's crisp and making sure you can achieve special effects and magic in the songs that people aren't able to do. So that brings me to my next question, man. What does the grind look like behind the scenes? What are some things that people may not recognize that you do in the engineering process? Like, are there any that stand out to you? Can you like maybe briefly explain what does it mean when you're going to engineer a song? Speaking very generally.
So if, like we're saying, going off what Artificial Christian had been doing, so they had their own setup. They would record their songs and they would send it over to me, and then I would get all of their files and basically listen over their song, kind of see what their ideas were, and basically take their rough mix and try to polish it, make it clean, make it modern, make it effective. But a lot that goes into it that is not seen is like, it just don't sound like that right away. And I don't think nobody understands how long it takes. Like, to make a 2-minute to 5-minute song, like, not only on the artist's behalf, but on the mixing behalf, like, it's very tedious work.
Absolutely.
And to work with artists as well sometimes, that's very tedious work too, because there's a lot of artists out there that are super particular about their sound, about what they want, what they hear, what their vision is for the song. So being able to deal with that, and like kind of put my pride aside and my ego aside to be like, oh, look at this is what I presented you, I think it's dope, but you don't, like, that's something that I don't think people understand sometimes. And like the tedious hours spent into I don't know if people know what automation is, but like writing faders and like drawing lines in there just to make words pop out, and like it's very, very tedious work that takes hours.
Let's look on the engineering side, since that's what we're focusing on today. Obviously, it takes a lot of time to okay, let's walk through an Artificial Christian's case. These cats are listening over gangs of beats online. They're trying to find it. Thank God they didn't have to make their own beats, or we'd probably have a couple more weeks and months ahead of them.
For sure.
But they're finding their beats online. They're stripping them out. Then they gotta write. There's 3 members of the group, so everybody's gotta come up with a spin-off, a concept, the lyrics, polish that, practice the delivery so they can actually pull it off in the booth, record all their takes without popping or sounding completely different or having a nice streamline of frequency. And then they go, hey, Mendoza, take all of this vomit that we have that's all unpolished and make it sound hot. And then they send it to you. Now it gets to you. Tell us how long it obviously it varies because there's different challenges with every song. Correct. And there's different layer amounts and different things trying to be achieved. Some might be more layered on the singing end. Some might just be more to the point rap songs. The beats, if they're stripped from online, you're not getting a mixed and mastered beat, so you're having to mix that in relation to the lyrics, but you can only go so far because you don't have the tracks from the beat, so you can't truthfully mix and master the beat. So you're dealing with a reference track, you know, that's subpar in some cases unless the producer just killed it. And then if he gave you a WAV file or something, you know, it's already compressed, you know. So typically, what might be a span of time it might take you to engineer a song?
Usually, it will take me 1 to 2 days.
Now, are we talking full days? Like in terms of hours?
In sections.
Okay.
So if I would put it into hours, depending on how big the song is, I would say probably anywhere from 8 to 24 hours.
Okay.
Of like legit time spent on the song. Not in a row though, because you get tired.
Oh, I bet. And then, you know, something that I've experienced, even though I'm not an engineer, but just in recording and listening to music for over 10 years, is you start tripping yourself out.
Yeah.
Like, am I hearing what I'm hearing at this point? And running around to different things to listen to the music. How many times would you say you repolish a rendition? So you bounce a track to kind of listen to it and say, okay. Or do you know when it's at the best it can possibly be all the time?
It could always be better.
Okay, it can always be better. Okay.
There's even, but you have to know when to stop. That's a big point. But when I get to where I think it's good, before I even send it to anybody, I take it places. Okay. I bounce it out personally. I put it on my phone or I take my computer down to my car. I'll play it in the car. I'll play it on my phone. I'll play it on a Bluetooth speaker. I'll play it on a house system. I'll play it over the speakers at my work. Like
you'll go to a high school, hijack their intercom.
Like any possible way. Like I probably listen to the song more than the artist listens to the song.
Yeah.
And I probably know the words better than them too.
No, seriously, that's real talk, man. How much you've probably listened to vocal tracks and
yeah.
That's funny, man.
Yeah, so it just takes time, man. And before I send it to them, like I want it to be pretty close to done. Like I always allow edits to take place.
Right.
But you have to set a limit because some people take advantage.
Yeah.
So I usually just get it to where I need it to be, send it to where it's almost there, and if they're cool with it, like I'll polish it off. Just like I'll be like, all right, I have just like a little minute things that I want to take care of before we say this is the final. That probably things that they won't really take.
They might not notice.
Yeah. Just like little things, like maybe a frequency in one area, or it just depends.
Yeah. So. Now, here's an interesting question that I just thought about. Obviously, it's easier for you to engineer music that you enjoy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is that all of what you engineer? Like, for instance, do you have to be passionate about the music and the artistry of what you're engineering? Or have you ever had those moments where, for money's sake or whatever, some cat goes, hey, I need you to engineer this, and you're in the lab and you're like, oh, why am I sitting here wasting my life on this music?
Definitely.
Okay, so you've had those moments.
Yes.
By choice or just to make ends meet? Or?
So, like, starting off in the game or whatever you want to say,
yeah,
you kind of have to take those, opportunities, because you never know who's going to listen to their music, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether you like it, whether you don't.
Right.
But I will say that if you vibe with it and you like it, and it's actually something that you would listen to personally, like, I feel like the track will be better because you're more connected to it, rather than, all right, I'm just trying to bang this track
You're
out.
looking for how to make it perfect instead of doing the minimum requirements.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, I'm going to spend time and I'm going to nurture whatever it is, whether it's good or bad or not, and I'm going to try to make it as best as possible. But I think, like, the connection between the music and being able to relate to it more helps it become more impactful.
Yeah, and I noticed that with the Artificial Christian Project because I don't consider myself an engineer, but I have a respect and a love for the science of music. So, like, for me, I can always tell when something special is happening. So, like, for instance, when I was listening to Artificial Christian's music, since I've been in their lab and I know how they write and record, they're very conveyor belts, so to speak. So, like, they find a track that they fall in love with and that resonates with them. They get in their own little quiet space and they write their lyrics and they come in, they bang out the verses and stuff like that. But because they don't know about the engineering, I know that, like, for instance, when I hear a special effect on a track, like, there's a track on there where there's like a camera snapping and like this different clips and or like I hear like some sort of filter around somebody's vocal, I know that that's not their idea because I know their recording process. And so one of the things I was just thinking about is, as an engineer, obviously cleaning sound and making it pop and making sure everything has a spot to breathe on a record so that you can appreciate all of the layers that went into it is what's important. But I think also when you have appreciation and a love for what you're editing, that also allows the engineer to do what a lot of people probably don't do in engineering, which is having the innovation to add other stuff that the artist didn't even think of to the track and invent new ways to present the vocals and stuff, which I heard a lot. So I remember just listening to the Artificial Christian Project and thinking to myself, wow, there's a lot of subtle things, subtle gems planted around these recordings that they for sure couldn't have came up with unless somebody was like, yo, this would have sounded dope here, or, and so I could tell to some extent that you probably really enjoyed working with those guys.
Oh, definitely.
And it really showed with just the versatility on there, because there's a lot of different records on there too that probably take a whole different approach.
For sure.
Now, just to zoom out a little further outside of the Artificial Christian stuff and the science behind the music, does your church by chance know that you are into music? Are you involved in your church in that way, or do they just kind of know what you do?
No, absolutely. They are. We've had concerts there. When I used to rap more, I would do a lot of the shows there, and since about 2013, I would say I have been running the sound there.
Okay.
So, like, I do live sound too. So it's not just
so you're on
studio
a board.
work. Yeah.
Dope.
Running consoles, and that's actually what I do for regular work as well.
Okay.
But they've known about it. They support it. I've had multiple opportunities to do like some spoken word type stuff, poetry, rap. Just so my involvement's basically in the music in my church.
Gotcha. That's what's up. Now, this is a really interesting question.
Okay.
I always, a lot of it comes down to who I'm interviewing and how much I know about the guy. But sometimes I just have things that come to my mind that I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to try asking this cat this question and see what comes out of it. So if you don't know where I'm going with this, I call this a grenade question. This is something I'm throwing out in the air and I'm hoping it lands. If not, we're just going to walk over it and pretend it never happened.
For sure. Being
an engineer is unique in that even though you don't rap, you hear a lot of rap and vocals from a unique standpoint because you're thinking of the science of it. So in a lot of ways, you're almost listening to vocals like it's an instrument. So I'm sure you have really strong opinions and preferences and ideas when you're listening to music that is right out of your studio that you're doing locally or in the music industry. What have been some interesting concepts that you've thought through when you listen to music nowadays? Like, is there anything interesting that you notice when you've heard a lot of local recordings, whether it has to do with lyricism or like recording techniques? How do you feel about the music today, either in Christian hip hop or stuff you've heard in the industry? Maybe let's start like from an engineering standpoint. Like, is there anything that stands out to you that you don't like or that you appreciate about the sounds coming out nowadays?
Well, there's some of both. Today, if we want to base everything off lyricism, like, I feel like we're going in the opposite direction, aside from a few people, where kind of like the words don't really matter. It's just all about the beat and all about the turn up.
Okay.
And that's unfortunate because I see even in the Christian hip hop realm, like, them trying to do the same thing and do like this turn up for Jesus or whatever. But I'm more of like a lyrical type guy, so I want to hear you talk about something important.
Right.
Like, I'm not really that, ooh, let's party and get all turned up.
Let's make noises and laugh.
Yeah, so that I've noticed that a lot, and I don't think that we as Christians and in the hip hop realm should necessarily follow that trend, but be yourself and be who God wants you to be. And if you're gonna do hip hop or whatever, like, do the best impression of you. Don't try to copy what the world's doing. Like, if you're gonna rap over one of those hard beats, like, cool, but you don't have to do exactly what they're doing. And on a positive note, I've noticed like the production of music in general and the infusion between like live instrumentations and the electronic sound, like those things and samples even are coming together and creating very unique sounds and giving like artists more reign to do different things with their vocals and like how they use their cadences and, you know, different areas.
This is definitely the era of cadence.
For sure.
Yeah, and I just want to kind of piggyback off that. Like, I think a lot of cats think that to be profound in music, it comes to being deep or like stacking bars or, you know, and that definitely is like one aspect to it. But I think more importantly, it's what you're saying and how you're saying it. So a lot of times there could be deep, profound truths about God or your life or things like that that can be said very simply but can have heavy impact. But the thing that we're looking for when we hear the music is, do we get a sense that it's coming from a real place from the artist, and what is it actually saying? So a lot of the times with the turn up, like for instance with me, I don't have any problem like turning up, but like, what am I turning up about?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, is there some kind of simple but deep, profound truth that I could turn up about? You know, like it might just be some dude saying, you know, Christ reigns, and I'll be like, okay, I'll turn up about that, but is there creativity there? What is the truth that you're saying? Do you have a conviction about it, or does it just sound like you have a Christian vocabulary book and you've done Bible roulette to throw some words in there and make it sound ill? I think our generation can notice that stuff a lot easier. If we critically think through what we're listening to, you could spot it. But I think for the young generation, it's a lot harder to navigate through because the beats and the sounds are so dope or banging that it can be hard for them to navigate through. And hip hop is more than just music, it's a culture, it's a lifestyle. So a lot of times it's easy to get kind of sucked into the culture of this quote unquote turn up without actually knowing what you're really saying or the implications of how you're living your life based off that interest and those behavioral patterns. So I think when it comes to turn up and like just types of music and simple lyricism versus complex, it really just comes down to we need some more explanations. We need cats saying, this is what I meant when I said this. This is what I was trying to go after. And give us more to work with so that we can have a fair assessment as a listener to see, is this a lifestyle this guy's living out, or is this guy just trying to capitalize on a moment or a style or a concept? Because I think that's very, it can be very misleading. And I think especially in Christian hip hop today, a lot of stuff's like, I don't know what it is about this, but
lack of substance.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I still feel kind of empty listening to this. But I mean, the beat's dope, so I'll just leave it on until I hear something else. But yeah, so let's dive into this. So let's zoom back into the studio life. So I want to do my special feature real quick. Every episode, I try and emphasize something funny or just, you know, jump off the testimony a little bit. So I want to do studio pet peeves. I don't know how many we're going to get through, but I'm going to try to piggyback off you, even though I'm not an engineer. Right. But I feel like I've seen it all too. What are some of the key things that annoy you? Now, obviously, let's start in the studio. So you got the dude in here recording with you. He's got his beats, his setup. Go on.
Well, one of them is like wearing a lot of like jewelry or wearing stuff that like moves around, like dinging and dangling. That's one.
So we got the Christmas tree wrapper where you hear all the ornaments clacking together while you're recording.
Yeah.
I had a dude, I'm not gonna shout his name out on here because I know he would get real uptight with me, man. But he came over to my house once recording. This dude had on, you know, a bigger cat of mine. I love this dude to death, but he had on a backpack. He had on the earbuds. And just had on a bunch of gear, and that's just how he rolls. Like, it's just but it was creating feedback. He was scraping his back against the wall, and my studio is not big. It's, you know, very tiny room. So I mean, you can't turn your shoulders without popping the mic. So yeah, that's funny. So we got the Jingle Bells rapper. What other pet peeves do you have?
The one that just wants to like eat the mic. like there's like a pop filter, and like instead of like putting it out a little way, it's like he'll just come up real close.
The Jay-Z rapper, he's fixing to drop that verse that's gonna change the game, and he wants the actual the exterior of the mic to feel his presence. Okay.
And then whenever he says his P's and B's, like it's just like the pop filter is
we'll
just
call that the peanut butter and jelly wrapper.
Yeah.
So all the P's and B's are real prominent and pristine.
Yeah, man. Just hitting the mic super hard. Or man, what else?
And what do you do when you come across that rapper? Do you kind of gently say it? Because I mean, some guys are so into what they do that they'll be like, "All right, man, all right," and then it's just like 5 takes later, they're still doing it. Just
man,
it's what they're familiar with.
You just kind of got to be patient with them. Just try to talk to them normally. Just be like, hey, I'm getting a lot of P's. Like, can you just back up from the mic a little bit? Or I'll even go into the room and like grab the pop filter and like say if they're doing that one, I'll pull it out. I'm like, all right, if you want to be on a pop filter, cool. Like, let me pull it out for you a little ways. So you could be up on that thing all you want.
Yeah, that's funny. I got my dude 7J. He's out of Jacksonville, Florida. And this dude has so much energy and passion when he raps. His style is so contagious, but he just goes in so heavy that you could tell he comes from that cypher vibe where you have to be you're present, commanding presence when you rap, and you gotta have emphasis. That when he first sent his vocals to me to mix. Man, when I say that every syllable clipped,
oh my god!
And I still had to mix it because he sent me like a bunch of records that were already done. He's like, yo, I did all this work and I didn't want to say like, yo, go re-record it all. So I just worked with what I had.
Oh my god!
You know, and so it sounded like some of the records kind of had that old Mike Jones mixtape feel, but nonetheless, like, how do you tell this, like what do you tell him, like, yo, you got to stand in your closet and put the mic on the other side of the room
Turn down your preamp a
or
lot.
put your mic volume on 1.5
Yeah.
and then stand, you know, an arm's length away from your mic, you know, so
That's probably one of the toughest things to deal with, like when you're not recording them and like you just don't know what you're gonna get. You know, I've had rooms, people in the background yelling, people in the background talking, but like I don't know where these people were recording. I've had air conditioners.
Dude was in a movie theater recording on his cell phone.
Yeah, I've actually had guys send me tracks with the mic backwards. What else, man?
Dude, I was recording at Warren's
that was
Christian the other day. Oh, really? Yo, I was recording at Warren's the other day, and they turned the monitor on in the mic, and I was like, yo, why do I hear a full-on argument going on? And it come to find out, the way their house is wired is they put the mic right under an air ventilator or whatever. And so it was tripping me out because I felt like, yo, is someone speaking through the Holy Ghost to me? Like, and kind of find out their ceilings are like office style, so sound travels through the ceiling. And so one of the roommates was watching TV in the living room, and so it was under a vent. And so the sound was just traveling right through, and through the monitor on my headphones, I could hear this full-on argument going on. I'm like, yo, am I supposed to, is this picking up on the mic?
Yeah.
But he's like, yeah, it's just like that.
Yeah, this is funny.
Or like the fans being on.
Another one, just being in the studio, is like, you know, you're like, well, how do you approach these guys? Well, sometimes when you tell them something, like, their egos kick in, and they're like, oh, whoa.
Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna do it like that.
I always sit back from the mic 45 degrees.
Yeah, they know exactly what they're talking about, and like, or they're just like, all right, yeah, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, some people you just gotta let them go.
Yeah.
I've also had recordings where I'm like, hey, you know, if you want the best quality mix possible, like,
we have to do this.
You need to re-record. And I've had clients be like, no, there's a plugin that you can put on there and make it all go away. They've done it before.
Oh my goodness, the magician rapper.
The magician.
So yo, these are the cats that are so in love with filters that they got the guy, they recorded with some dude who had like a plug-in that he just hit studio Lil Wayne rapper, and it plugged in compression, EQ, auto-tune all at once and made him sound like a robot. And so he expects you to, he thinks your mixing process is as simple as clicking a button and zapping it with some magical flavor. Yo, that's frustrating. I'm not an engineer, but I record a lot of cats. And so I get that sometimes. We're like, yo, man, just put on SP517, yo, like that cleans up everything every time. And I'm like, what did you just say? And what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, what happened to just laying down an ill verse? Or, yo, I usually punch this in 76 times before we don't got to do it all out, you know? So you just have like a 50-layer song and it's just one verse. Oh, man. Anything else that stands out to you, man, for pet peeves?
Not off the top of my head that I can think of.
Okay. Well, I think we covered some. Okay, so for all you cats out there getting engineers to record, man, stop getting all up on the mic. You know, take advice from your engineer, man. He's just trying to make you sound good. Leave your ego at the door, and you save him some time. You might save yourself some money, some hourly money as well, the less work he has to do. And you want to be the type of cat that your engineer loves to mix, because you have the least amount of obstacles when he has to approach the science of putting your work together. So listen to your engineers, fellas.
Yes, if you want a good mix, get a great recording first.
Get a great recording. Yeah, I used to hear that all the time from, I know a lot of engineers here locally, and they always say, man, you know you have something special when you record and you don't have to do that much, because everything that's taking place on the live aspect of your recording it sounds phenomenal.
Exactly.
So yeah, you know, if your engineer has to do a lot with your work, it's probably because you're making a nightmare of an experience for them to take care of. But yeah, so that leads me into another question. This is more personal. For any of those out there looking for an engineer such as yourself, how do you tell the difference between a really good engineer and one that's not so good?
Well, first you have to listen to their rough mixes, or to the mixes that they have on their portfolio.
Okay.
A lot of the music nowadays has a lot of compression, like a lot, and it's super easy to destroy music with a compressor. Believe me, I know, because I've destroyed a lot of music trying to learn how to use them.
You burned a couple houses down, so you know what it's like.
Smashing records just for no reason. Make sure they know what they're doing with the music. One thing that I do offer at times when people aren't certain if they want to work with me or not is like, hey, you know, if you have a song that would like to be mixed, go ahead and send it to me. I'll mix like a little snippet of it, and I'll show you like what it can turn into.
Okay.
So that's something you may want to suggest, or if you want to hit me up and ask me like, oh hey, I have this song, can you show me a snippet of
Is that how stuff worked with Artificial Christian? Is that kind of how it started out?
No, actually, I had known Wes, and Wes, I was trying to get involved with them because I really believe in what they're doing, and they're super dope. And Wes was like, all right, well, we'll send you one of these tracks, and they sent me Playground Days.
It's a fire record.
And so like I was like, all right, this is my chance, my opportunity to get in. And like I just tried to mix it as best as I could, and I sent it to them, and they still call me.
Yeah. You ended up mixing almost the entire thing. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Yo, that's crazy, man. Okay. So that's dope that you work with the artist too, to give them a snapshot, you know, because I know there's a couple dynamics in the music game that kind of suck. And one is that the music game is not cheap. It's expensive from the recorder's perspective, and it is especially expensive from the engineer's standpoint. Thankfully, there's a lot of software out there that kind of compensates for hardware, so you can kind of bypass a lot of the things that you need, but it still does affect your sound. But it's not cheap, and so unfortunately, especially when you're dealing with locally, when it comes to making a portfolio and stuff, unfortunately you get stuck a lot of the times with doing free work and work under the table and stuff like that. So the best thing that you can kind of hope for in a lot of cases is just that having people that you're working with that do phenomenal work, so that you can both showcase each other well enough to get to a place where you don't have to work like that, or if you do, it's by choice. So that's really dope. Now, man, is there anything else you want to elaborate on as far as the Artificial Christian work? Like, what are some key things that you kind of learned from that experience? And is that one of the more doper things that you've been involved with recently?
Yeah, that's probably like the latest thing that I've done. You know, just, it's funny because it's the same dudes, the same mic, different beat, but every time that it comes in, something's different about it. Whether it's like the vocal, like I can't just, like you said, hit SLP73.
Yeah.
I can't just save settings and then just throw them on their vocals and like, bam, it sounds the same as the last one.
Right.
So there's just always little minute things that are different, whether it was their proximity from the microphone, whether it was their pronunciation or their cadence or how they said it, just certain things like that. And just being able to hear things before it's actually alive, if you know what I mean. So sure. When I listen to the rough mix, I'm like, oh, that would be dope there. Oh, this would be dope there, you know. Like kind of seeing into the future of what it can be. So knowing that, all right, the outcome of this could be way doper than where we're starting. So
sure, for sure. Now, yeah, there's a lot involved in that, man. I was just kind of thinking through that myself. There's so much to it, man. I think people don't give a lot of cats credit. I think even for me, a lot of the reason why I do podcasts is it gives another context for people to think through what I do and some of the things I'm wrestling with, as well as the artist. It gives them a platform to kind of say, okay, even though you guys have heard this dope project from me, this is everything that goes into it, and this is why you should appreciate it just as much as me. You know, so with that being said, let's zoom out a little bit more. How do you maintain a healthy balance between, you know, work life, your faith in your walk, your engineering, you have a fiance? I don't know if this is as much of a question about like tips to cats kind of following in your footsteps, but just are there any kind of maybe key things that you've learned as far as things that help you keep a good balance or a healthy balance?
Yes, walk carefully.
Walk carefully.
For
okay.
sure.
So have some intentionality about what you're doing.
Definitely.
Okay.
You know, time is very precious, and you know, God only gives us 24 hours in a day, and you know, 8 of those hours we should be sleeping.
Yeah.
Should be, but you know how that goes.
Once you get married, you probably will be more on that schedule.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know all about not getting no sleep.
But I think that another great thing for me personally is like to have a supportive woman who is willing to sacrifice her time for me to do what I need to do.
Sure.
Whether it be for the church, whether it be for music. You know, just having that when she calls me and be like, oh, I'm working on a song right now, or I have to do this, or I have to do this interview, and her being okay with it, even though it's cutting into her time.
Yeah.
Like, that's really helped me along the way. Also being established in a church has been super helpful, because like I'm held accountable by leaders, by fellow Christians. Living here at my house, I have 2 roommates who are practicing Christians. So that helps me a lot, because maybe if I'm feeling down or I haven't read as much as I should this day or this week, like they can hit me with a word, or hey, God told me this, you know, and just kind of reignite that fire back in me. Yeah, but those are some of the key factors, man, that I think that are very important. You know, watch who you surround yourself with. Whenever you're working, like work with intention, and don't involve yourself with things that are not edifying to you. Because you know, we work in the world, there's a lot of conversations that I do not need to be a part of, you know, and like sometimes you get that temptation to be a part of those things, and just to maintain that relationship with God, and just to stay on that straight and narrow, it's sometimes tough to turn the other way and just kind of walk away. So you just have to know where to spend your time and who to spend it with. Okay.
Yeah, so really keeping track of your circle, your support system, being plugged into a local church, making good use of your time and your intentionality. It's wise words, man. Tell us, as we come to a close here, tell us what your long-term goals are with your engineering.
So basically my long-term goals for this is to do this full-time, because right now I do live sound, audio visual for a corporate world, whether that's like meetings and stuff, and sometimes there's concerts in the hotel that I work at, and we set up live sound systems, projection, yada yada yada. But I think that right now in my life is like a point where like, all right, I'm about to get married. I want to be established, and I want to do music full time because I love it so much. And I think that God has given me the ability to do so. Like, I'm not trying to say that I'm like the greatest, but I think that like from where I've come, like I stand out more than a lot of other people that are just, because I'm basically a beginner still, because people have been doing this for years. But I think that no, actually, reverse. I'm establishing a brand right now. So behind the scenes is a project that I'm working on. It's gonna be called Plus 48. It's kind of just referencing to like phantom power. And like getting power from like the Most High.
Now, phantom power, for those of you who don't know, is something you activate in your interface that allows, it allows condenser mics to be read, right? It gives them enough juice to pick up signal. And so I'm kind of playing off that, and I'm in the process of like
trying to create a logo, get all of that, get a website so that I can actually sell my services, because right now I have like a Facebook page and I have like a SoundCloud, and I had a Wix page. I still have it, but it's just not professional
Not
to
where
me.
you want it to be.
Yeah, so like I'm actually going to people that know what they're doing, and trying to get that so I can establish a brand and begin to sell my services like to the public.
Okay.
More so than by word of mouth.
Absolutely. Dope, man. Well, hey, it's been a pleasure having you, man. I appreciate you letting me in your home to do this recording. I'm excited to put this together for you guys. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of plug all this idea. So a lot of the reason why I do podcasts outside of just enlightening people about an honest testimony from cats, what they're passionate about, being transparent, and just getting involved in my local community to give people in this local community a little bit more of an audio-visual roadmap, so to speak, to the town to see what kind of people and what kind of churches they can plug into. But this idea of using the internet to connect people locally is a big thing that I see missing, that I would love to come into play and use this podcast to connect cats into churches, connect cats into fellowship, and most importantly to help cats learn how to give God glory in whatever they do, whether it's the simple mundane things in life or the things that you're passionate about, and do it well, and to be matured accordingly, according to the word and not to worldly wisdom. So guys, Mendoza's an audio engineer. He's involved and passionate about a lot of other stuff. But guys, if you have music out there that you'd like mixed and mastered, you want to work with somebody and you want a second opinion about some of the sounds and things that you're working with, or maybe even you want somebody to educate you on how you can even control your own mixes and mastering, Mendoza's out here. In a second, I'm going to have him plug all the ways that you can connect with him, but I give him a stamp of approval, man. I've heard his work. He's phenomenal. And another reason why I like to build up the community is for resources. So when you guys want stuff done at a high level, whether it's rappers, singers, dancers, artists, book writers, engineers, you guys can, again, have that roadmap in Arizona to know who's doing it at a high level with Christ's glory in mind, to do things excellently and to be moved in a way that is encouraging and builds up the church and preaches Christ to a broken and lost world. So this dude's here. He puts together really high quality music, and he's plugged into a local church out here in Mesa, would you say?
Correct.
In Mesa, called
Redeemer Apostolic Church.
Okay, so you can plug into that. If you have any questions as far as the church is concerned, he's a Christian cat, so even if you have questions about your faith, reach out to him. I'm sure he has no problem diving into that with you. Or if you just want to give him some encouragement, again, some of his work out now is with Artificial Christian. They just put out a project, and I'm sure he's got a lot more in the works for the year, especially as he puts a site together to kind of put out his beats, as well as his engineering, as well as his involvement in kind of live performing and stuff like that. So as we come to a close here, I just want to thank you, Mendoza, for letting me interview you, man, so I can kind of put you out on the platform that I have. As we close off everything, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, your social media, your work, etc.
Absolutely, man. Well, I appreciate you for having me, and it's a very great opportunity, and I thank you for allowing me to be exposed to the people that you are connected to, and giving me that chance. So if you guys are looking for any mixing, mastering, I'm definitely very reliable compared to a lot of professionals out there, and I'm pretty sure that you'll notice that the work that I'm gonna try to put forth, and like the effort that I will put forth to give you that professional quality that you're looking for, just go ahead and hit me up. You can hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. You could also hit me up on SoundCloud at M3NDOZA12, at M3NDOZA12. You could also look me up on SoundCloud at Dominic R. Mendoza. And on SoundCloud, it's like a lot of the projects that I have worked on, reposts from songs that I've mixed. It's kind of just like my basic engineer page and portfolio. And also just be on the lookout for Plus 48 Vibe with me.
Word. That's what's up, man. Appreciate you, man. So, guys, again, this is episode 6 of the Conscience Hip Hop Podcast. I am your host, Conscience. Remember, y'all, we are present day history. Until next time, we're signing off. Peace.